The market has always been a mirror of human nature. It doesn't change because people don't change. The faces at the ticker may be different now, screens instead of chalkboards, charts instead of tape, but the hearts behind those trades beat with the same fear, greed, and impatience that destroyed men a century ago. You can call it progress if you want, but the fundamentals of human folly have never advanced an inch, and that is why 95% of traders fail. Most people enter the market for the wrong reason. They come to make quick money, not to study, not to observe, not to understand the laws that govern movement and reaction. They believe they can outwit the market through excitement, tips, and borrowed confidence, but the market doesn't reward excitement, it punishes it. The market doesn't respect emotion, it exploits it. The moment you feel you must make money, you're already in trouble. In my early years, I thought intelligence would be enough. I could read the tape better than most men on the floor. I made and lost small fortunes before I was 25. Each time I thought I had mastered it, the market found a way to teach me humility. It's a costly teacher, the most expensive in the world, but those who refuse its lessons pay far more in the end. You must understand that the stock market is never wrong. Opinions are wrong. Hope is wrong. Ego is wrong. The market is pure truth expressed in prices. When you learn to listen, it tells you everything. When you argue with it, it ruins you. I learned that lesson again and again. Every great loss I ever took began the same way, with my refusal to admit that I might be wrong. That's the first reason most traders fail. They trade opinions, not facts. They cling to stories instead of signals. They marry positions and divorce discipline. A trader must be a scientist of his own behavior. He must recognize that every impulse to make it back or double down comes from the same destructive instinct that drives men to ruin. Let me tell you something the market doesn't forgive. Hope. Hope belongs to gamblers, not operators. When you're on the wrong side of a move, hope will whisper that it will turn around. Discipline will tell you to cut it. The successful trader listens to discipline. The failing trader listens to hope. The difference between them is survival. Another reason most fail is they want certainty. But certainty is a myth in speculation. There are only probabilities and positions. A wise operator never tries to predict what will happen next. He prepares for whatever can happen. The moment you begin to think the market owes you clarity, it will deliver confusion. The only edge a trader can ever possess is preparation. During my years on Wall Street, I saw men lose fortunes not because they didn't have the right information, but because they didn't have the right temperament. The great enemy of success in trading isn't ignorance, it's emotion. Fear of loss keeps men from taking opportunities. Greed keeps them from taking profits. Impatience drives them to act when they should be still. And pride finishes the job. I remember when I made my first great fortune shorting stocks before the crash of 1907. I wasn't smarter than the others. I simply watched the tape and saw weakness. It was clear to me the market was breaking down, even as everyone else called it a buying opportunity. The crowd's optimism was my signal. When I acted, I did it with conviction, but not with arrogance. I knew that even if I was right, I could still lose if I didn't manage my risk. That's the paradox of trading. You can be right on direction and wrong on execution. And being wrong in execution can destroy you faster than being wrong in theory. When the panic came, I made millions in a single day. But let me tell you something. It didn't make me happy. It made me cautious. I learned that success in the market is never permanent. The moment you think you've arrived, the market changes its character just enough to humble you again. That's another reason most traders fail. They forget that winning creates a new enemy: overconfidence. The market has a strange way of flattering your ego before it breaks it. It will let you make money just long enough for you to forget that losses are real. It will convince you that you've finally found the secret formula, and then it will take it all back plus interest. I've lived that cycle more times than I care to admit. You must never forget that the market's job is to fool the greatest number of people for the longest possible time. When you understand that, you stop chasing perfection. You stop searching for a system that never loses. There is no such thing. The best any man can do is manage his losses so that when the big opportunity comes, he's still alive to take it. Survival. That's the hidden secret of every great operator. You can't compound if you're wiped out. You can't learn if you're broke. The first rule is always preservation of capital. The second rule is to remember the first. I've seen traders bet their entire fortune on a single conviction, convinced that this time they can't be wrong. They forget that markets can remain irrational longer than they can remain solvent. When you risk everything, you're not speculating, you're gambling. And gambling has no place in the life of a professional operator. Discipline is the only thing that separates the 95% from the 5% who survive. Discipline means waiting when others are anxious. It means cutting losses without emotion. It means never adding to a losing position. It means taking profits when your plan says to, not when greed says to. Discipline is boring. That's why so few people master it. But boredom is the price of consistency. If you study the great panics and booms throughout history, you'll find the same pattern. The public always enters late, always buys at the top, and always sells at the bottom. It's not because they're stupid. It's because they're human. They act from emotion, not observation. They chase comfort, not truth. And the market rewards discomfort. The successful trader learns to do the opposite of his natural impulses. When he feels the urge to buy, he checks if he's being emotional. When he feels panic, he asks if the crowd feels the same way. If the crowd does, he knows the move is nearly over. The hardest skill in trading is learning to think independently of the mob, but without that independence, you are doomed to follow it over the cliff. There was a time when I thought I could bend the market to my will. I believed that sheer cleverness could overcome uncertainty. That illusion cost me millions. I once made a fortune, lost it, made it again, and lost it again. Not because the market changed, but because I did. I lost discipline. I let success breed carelessness. And the market punished me swiftly, as it always does. Every great operator must go through those trials. You can't learn discipline from books. You learn it from pain. The pain of watching your fortune evaporate because you refuse to take a small loss. The pain of realizing that you ignored your own rules. That pain, if you survive it, becomes your greatest teacher. You can't control what the market will do. You can only control what you will do in response. That's the only form of mastery that exists. A man who controls himself controls his fortune. A man who can't control himself is already bankrupt, no matter what his account says. Risk management isn't about playing it safe. It's about staying in the game. The great irony is that the men who last the longest aren't those who take the biggest bets, but those who take the best bets. The quality of your trades matters more than the quantity. One good trade, executed with patience and control, can make your month. 10 impulsive trades can ruin your year. Most traders fail because they seek excitement. They think trading should feel thrilling. It shouldn't. Real trading is dull. It's repetition, structure, and waiting. If you want excitement, go to a casino. If you want wealth, learn to sit on your hands until opportunity demands action. Another reason for failure is the obsession with being right. The goal of trading isn't to be right, it's to make money. You can be wrong more than half the time and still make a fortune if your losses are small and your gains are large. But most traders do the opposite. They take small profits and large losses because it feels good to be right. The market doesn't care about your pride. It only respects mathematics. You must learn to trade like a machine and think like a philosopher. Never let hope enter your process. Never let fear dictate your actions. Always have a reason for every position, and know in advance where you're wrong. If you can't define your risk, you have no business taking the trade. One of the hardest truths to accept is that opportunity only comes when you're ready to act without hesitation. You can't hesitate when the market gives you a gift, and you can't force a move when it isn't there. You must learn patience not just in waiting for the right trade, but in holding it when it begins to work. When you catch a true trend, it's like discovering a vein of gold. Don't sell it too soon. Let it run until it shows signs of exhaustion. The big money isn't made in the buying or selling, it's made in the waiting. Most traders fail because they lack the nerve to sit through success. They take quick profits to feed their need for gratification and hold on to losses to feed their need for hope. Reverse those habits, and you reverse your fate. There were times I made millions, and times I sat in cash for months. Those periods of inactivity were never wasted. They were times of observation, study, and rest. The market rewards those who respect timing. Patience isn't inaction, it's preparation. You can tell the difference between a professional and an amateur by their response to loss. The amateur blames the market, the news, or bad luck. The professional blames himself. He asks, did I follow my rules? Did I respect my stops? Did I trade from logic or emotion? Every loss contains a lesson if you have the humility to look for it. The 95% fail because they refuse to learn from their mistakes. They repeat them, thinking next time will be different. But the market doesn't reward repetition, it rewards adaptation. To survive, you must evolve. Here's the irony. The principles of successful trading are simple. Control risk, be patient, cut losses quickly, let winners run, think independently. The difficulty lies not in understanding them, but in applying them consistently. The problem isn't knowledge, it's discipline. You can read every book, memorize every chart pattern, and still fail if you can't control yourself. That's why so few make it. Trading is the most direct mirror of your own psychology. Every weakness you possess will be exposed. Every fear, every impulse, every flaw, it all shows up in your trades. The ones who succeed are not the smartest, nor the boldest, but the most self-aware. They know their limitations and design systems to protect themselves from those limitations. They don't rely on luck or intuition, they rely on structure. The stock market is the greatest teacher of character in existence. It doesn't care about your past, your education, or your ambition. It only cares about your discipline. The market will break you down until only the truth remains about who you are and how you think. If you survive that test, you'll emerge not just wealthier, but wiser. Remember this, making money is easy, keeping it is hard. Anyone can catch a lucky streak, but to last, you must become a student of your own mind. You must treat the market not as a battlefield to conquer, but as a mirror to understand. The 95% fail because they're fighting the wrong enemy. They think it's the market. It's not. The real enemy is themselves. Fear, greed, impatience, and pride, these are the true bear and bull. Until you defeat them, every trade will be a battle lost in advance. So, if you wish to endure in this business, stop chasing shortcuts. Study yourself. Study price. Respect the tape. Keep your capital safe. Be patient enough to wait for the one moment when everything aligns, and when it does, act with conviction. In the end, trading is not about money. It's about mastery. Money is only the scorecard. The real victory is control over your mind, your impulses, and your fate. That's why 95% fail. But for the few who conquer themselves, the market becomes the greatest opportunity the world has ever known.